If you want Colts talk all year long, you're in the right place. This is the official Colts podcast, giving you an updated look at what's new with the Horseshoes.
He's got it! Touchdown! Jack Doyle! And he's going to be brought down inside the 15, and it's going to go to DeForest Buckner. Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's going to go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
From the Power Home Solar Studio, let's get the podcast started.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to the official Colts podcast. My name is Jeffrey Gorman, joined week in and week out by Miss Larra Overton, who keeps this ship afloat. How are you, lady?
I am doing fantastic. I am very buoyant. I do keep things afloat around here.
Yes, you do. That's why we stay close. Don't forget, fans, PointsBet Sportsbook, proud sportsbook partner of your Indianapolis Colts, and a faster, easier way to bet. Now live with a college basketball Make It Rain promotion. All you have to do is place a minimum bet of $50 on a team to cover the spread, and for every three-pointer they hit, you get $3 in free bets. Plus, you sign up with the code Colts Radio. That's one word, Colts Radio, to get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. It is a can't lose. Thanks to our friends again at PointsBet Sportsbook. And speaking of three-pointers, LO, I want to bring in one of the great architects of the three-point shot. Yes, we are talking basketball, not football. And we do that with local legend. The only reason he's a legend is he's been around for so stinking long now.
I have heard legends of his three-point, hardcourt prowess out there. I think old Hinkle Fieldhouse around the south side, all sorts of places here around Central Indiana.
He's pretty good.
I've heard.
He's done a lot of good in his professional career as well. I am, of course, talking about JMV, 93.5 and 107.5, the most listened sports talk radio show in Indianapolis, right behind this podcast.
Yeah, right.
Is The Drive with JMV. John, how are you today?
Man, I am great, Gorman. I still have the stroke, and I just noticed this. I'm watching Rounders right now as I'm talking to you guys. Were you in this, Gorman?
Locked in the 80s. Look at a Rounders.
I love Rounders.
That's a great show.
Were you in Rounders?
I auditioned for it. That's the closest I got, John. I couldn't seal the deal.
Well, what were you in Edward Norton's role? What was that?
I know, like I had a chance there, please.
It didn't have Lorenzo Lamas in it, so I thought there was maybe no chance you were in it, too.
Exactly. Fans, here's what you get with John. Yeah, what are you up to this morning? I'm watching Weird Science. Or, hey, what are you doing? I'm watching Splash.
Once he gets through the school line drop-off, right, John? You got to do that first.
Exactly.
He's locked in. Man, this is going to be a fun show, and I want to tell you why. So follow me here. Let's play a game, everyone who's within earshot of me, including LO and JMV. Let's play a game. The game is this. Due to NFL league rules, we aren't able to discuss any, and I repeat, any potential transactions until sometime after the new league year officially begins on March 17th.
What a St. Patrick's Day,
I know. And LO, that means you. That means me. We are considered club officials from the club, which I've never been considered in my life.
And privileged to be, right?
My gosh. But my point is this. These potential trades that are out there, we can't speak of. Okay? We can't speak of. And I don't even know what I'm talking about right now, potential trades. But what I do know is March 17th, free agency begins, and it looks like, I bet, that Chris Ballard and the Colts are going to sign some free agents. So
he's worked some magic around this time last year, right?
Yes,
so now we've come to expect it.
One of the best in the league. So, John, I painted that picture for you. It's a tough show. It's a tough show. There's a 600-pound elephant in the room. We kind of got to bob and weave around it without talking about it. So
you're like Bob Ross painting that picture. The little mistakes, they're just happy accidents. Like you're making the best of it here,
So,
Jeffrey.
John, with that, a lot of reports out there, JMV. I just want you to, what do you make of the reports that I can't confirm are true or false, but as far as the future goes with the Colts?
If there were a guy out there that were capable of being a part of this team and leading them at the most important position in professional sports, and somebody that certainly the guy that leads this particular team has had relations, connectability with in the past, that maybe didn't have the best year this past year and looking for a new home. I mean, given the circumstances, Gorman and Larra, if you were, this team, the team that you guys cover, and because your former lead at the most important professional spot in sports in general, if he decided to retire and you needed somebody This particular somebody, I think, is as good as you're going to find given the circumstances, because it's not like last year where you got to just go ahead on the open market and window shop. You actually had to work through maybe, possibly, allegedly, reportedly a deal. And I'm going to tell you this, if this all works out and this is the hard target, to me, it's the best thing this team could ask for. And it's not a backhanded compliment to suggest that because there wasn't a lot on the open market, but I think this team can do something with this alleged football throwing somebody that we're all trying to talk about in a roundabout way right now.
And we're doing a good job of it.
John, based on what you saw, you mentioned, 2020 and what we saw from the Phillip Rivers, Frank Reich reunion. Of course, Rivers was coming off a season with the Chargers. He threw 20 interceptions, second most of his career in 2019. Given what you saw in terms of what Frank Reich was able to do to bring Phillip Rivers up to form, a form he had not been in several seasons, how confident are you that Frank Reich could, again, resurrect another quarterback who might not be coming off the best seasons of his career, and based on having the offensive line that you do, the wealth of weapons, the run game that you do, this is a situation where Frank Reich, being this known quarterback whisperer, could bring a potential veteran quarterback that still has a lot of youth and a lot of years ahead back into that elite quarterback form.
Well, I'm going to tell you this, Larra. I not only loved it last year with what he did, and we kind of saw that take shape as the season grew longer. I think the only problem ultimately with Phillip Rivers last year is you question whether or not he was going to be able to take a team down the field. And not because he doesn't have throwing the ball skill. I mean, he does and still does, even now in retirement. But, 38, 39 years old, the arm strength wasn't there, and that's some of the things you question. But what you didn't question was Frank Reich putting him in position offensively to be so much better than he was the year prior, which was arguably either his worst or one of his worst seasons of his entire NFL career. And I'll also point the finger to this. Upon Andrew Luck's return with Frank Reich for that season, Andrew Luck, we saw Andrew Luck get a lot better out of that too. I mean, a short – higher percentage passing game, things that he worked into. And we saw Frank deal with Andrew Luck even before Rivers and transform him. So I think there's a great deal of positivity about how you can turn somebody's career around if you're Frank Reich. And then I think that relatability is a lot of it too. I mean, feeling comfortable for a guy like this, if this were to occur, that's gone through a year much like Rivers did, not off the field, but certainly on the field, where things were as bad as he's ever seen. You've got to repair something both on and off the field, and I think this is the best place to do that if this news turns out to be true.
Again, due to NFL league rules, we aren't able to discuss any potential transactions until sometime after the new league year officially begins on March 17th. So the game of charades continues, which I enjoy doing it with you, LO, and JMV. Let's go around the quarterback position. Let's go around that vital position in the NFL then. You've got a draft coming up. You've got free agency coming up. You've got money to spend in free agency. I know where you're going to go right off the gate, but give me the top three head-scratching, not head-scratchers, but, hey, they need to address this, and they're going to do this how? What say you, JMV?
Well, they need an edge rusher, and obviously I always start out with wide receiver, and they certainly do that. I think with what the possibilities looms coming down the way here informationally, we'll finally be able to talk about next month. Right here, I think you need a more dynamic wide receiver, and that doesn't say anything about negatively what they have on this team. I just think they need a more dynamic guy. Now, Chris Ballard and I are on the same page with how he views wide receivers compared to how I view wide receivers, of course.
Okay, stop right there. Stop right there. Don't compare yourself to Ballard, please. Stop.
No, I mean, we used to have two different beliefs. I think that there's...
My belief is I'm glad he's in the position he's at and you're in the position you're at.
Listen, you've got to understand, though, how many years I've been talking about wide receiver. I mean, all the way back to when Dontrell Inman helped save that position a couple of years ago, too. So they've constantly been, to me, chasing their tail there. They got serious about it last year. I hope they're even more serious about it this offseason. But let's face facts here. It is, to me, second most At left tackle, you got to find that, which I'll get into in just a second, but you got to find an edge rusher at some point. We saw in the Super Bowl just how important that rush can be, that pressure can be, even to what is, as of right now, the greatest quarterback out there, and that's Patrick Mahomes. I mean, nobody is above being flustered and having a bad game by virtue of pass rush, either coming from the edge or coming up in their face. And, guys, they have that face part going on because DeForest Buckner was so good this past year against the run, and then coming up the middle, they had that part figured out. They have to figure out the edge. So we're talking edge rusher, wide receiver, quarterback. We'll see how they end up filling that. But to me, the biggest gap to start with is going to be left tackle because that's where Anthony Costanzo left them, decided to retire after a fantastic career here. To me, I would love to be able to see them slide over Quentin Nelson, and I made a point on my show to do that from left guard to left tackle. I'm kind of on an island there because not a lot of people agree with me, because then that would save you the opportunity of having to use 21 in April to draft a left tackle. I wish they would do that. I kind of hope they do that and maybe have a left guard come in like a Danny Pinter, somebody like that, maybe even draft somebody in a later round if you feel that somebody is available and might be better than what you have right now. I would love for them to keep that flexibility at 21 and be able to do that with, we already know this about Quentin Nelson. I mean, everybody talks about him being the best offensive lineman in the NFL. Even at left guard, he's going to be paid like that ultimately, right? So to me, his skill set, I think, still can slide over to left tackle and be as good as anybody in the NFL. To me, he is that good. They probably don't do that, but I like the idea.
One of the guys who I want to hear more from on that, and Jeffrey, I'm throwing this out there and putting you on record with it, is we got to get Baldinger in here to talk about the likelihood of that. There was a great article last week in The Athletic. I want to say it may have been Stephen Holder who explored this option, and it's a really compelling argument. Baldy would be great to bring in and talk about it. John, when you mention wide receiver, this is a two-part question for you. Should we get some clarity at the quarterback situation here over the coming weeks?
We should.
We should. What is the likelihood of T.Y. Hilton coming back, especially if he's reassured that it's going to be a veteran quarterback coming in to a situation at which you have a little bit more clarity? And then also, what is your outlook for Paris Campbell? They were so high on Paris Campbell when he was drafted. The injuries have just been things that are absurd. The past 2 years, the things that he's been through, where do you think the optimism is? What is realistic to expect now for Paris Campbell looking into 2020 or 2021?
I think part of the problem, Larry, is starting right here with guys that are potential or are going to be free agents may not even make it there. I mean, they may have availability in free agency name right now, but they may not, make it there. Maybe somebody gets franchise tagged. Maybe somebody gets re-signed, whatever the case might be. So, we might be talking about somebody ultimately who's unavailable. But within this team, there's no doubt Paris Campbell is so important. I think the problem I have with Paris Campbell, which is not his fault, I mean, he's had 2 years of being incredibly unlucky. But, man, this thing works really fast in the NFL, and unfortunately you don't have time to sit back, cross your fingers, and hope that Paris Campbell is going to give you the entirety of a season. And what you're going on is the experience of him being in 2 years unable to do that. So while it would be great and hopefully he bounces back, I don't think you can just rely on that hope. And then depending upon what you do with your free agent wide receiver, I like what they have in Michael Pittman Jr. I love Zach Pascal. Out of the backfield, I love Nyheim Hines. I just think they need one dynamic wide receiver where a defensive coordinator is staying up late at night to play them during the week, trying to figure out how this could be quarterback, how they can keep this guy from throwing him the football. That's all I'm talking about. But I also understand this, and Gorman is going to say it, that it's logical to believe that person is going to be unavailable in the open market. But they need somebody. They've needed somebody like that for a while.
That's what our friend Rick Venturi calls those Ambien players, right? JMV, the ones that keep you up at night. You got to take the Ambien to be able to sleep the Saturday night before that Sunday game where you're facing off with that type of a guy.
You know what's interesting about this whole year, guys, is the salary cap. Okay, and the fluctuation of the said salary cap, where it's down this year. The pandemic, no crowds, no fans, et cetera, it's down. That's an interesting subject to me because, how do I say it? It's the mid-level free agents. The mid to high-level free agents are not going to command what they would in years past. You know what I'm saying? Because there's no money to spend. And if you're sitting on Chris Ballard, that's going to be at the top of the list as far as teams go with free agent, as far as salary cap to spend, the Colts will end up at near the top of the list with that, with all transactions that are, have happened or are going to happen. So it's interesting to me to see how much they're going to pay for guys, how much other teams want veterans, but the level that they say, for example, a wide receiver says, I think I can get $10 million a year. Well, this year, John, it's going to be more like $8 million or $7.5 million. You ever thinking about that this year as far as talent around the NFL and what Chris Ballard can get his hands on?
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, I think about that, and then you kind of think about the tight end position as well. Because Frank Reich loves his tight ends, and I know that he's loved who he's had on this team. But you got guys, a couple of which in free agency, and even your own in Mo Alley Cox in free agency, that you would like to see what they might hold in the future. But yeah, I would agree with you on that, Gorman. I mean, this is going to be kind of a weird offseason, much like it was a weird in season. Which, I mean, depending upon your opinion, maybe that makes it easier for Chris Ballard to hard target somebody like that you wouldn't normally get. But we both know this, that Chris he's not as enamored like me with that position. I mean, I think, the spotlight comes on and boom, there it is, and there's your wide receiver, and it's great, but he doesn't look at it that way. That's how he views the interior lineman. You know what I mean? That's how much he values that. So his viewpoint on that is much different than mine, but you might end up being right how that availability and affordability for those free agent wide receivers would be a heck of a lot better in this particular offseason compared to what we have seen in the past.
All right, John, really quick. Sorry, Larra. Really quick. Let's talk about in-house guys. In-house guys that are up. You know what I mean? The Colts have a list of some guys that are available for other teams. Anthony Walker comes to mind. Justin Houston comes to mind. To name a few. Al-Qadim Mohammed. Chris has said, Ballard has said, and Jim Irsay and Frank Wright, we like to stay within our own. We like to pay our own guys. What do you like for guys that are on the market for the Colts right now?
Well, Justin Houston, I think he's done a great job while he's been here. I think they move on from him. Did you mention Deniko Autry? He's another one, right?
He's another one,
I think he has been pretty good. I think that he ends up finding something someplace else. Al-Qadim Muhammad, I think, ends up getting signed. He just kind of seems like a guy that's developed and has played his position here defensively, and somebody that they're going to be able to bring back. Xavier Rhodes in that secondary at corner. I mean, he was a one-year deal, take a chance. He was rolling the dice as much as the Colts were rolling the dice on him. I just think that because the cornerback market is so important and it's tough to get a look at and to gauge right now, I think he's probably going to find more of a monetary value on the open market. But if he doesn't, I think he's had a good enough year to come back here and play. I just think he ends up getting a better deal someplace else. So if you start right there defensively, Anthony Walker, I know they love Anthony Walker and all. I think Anthony Walker is probably going to be viewed as free agency expendable. So I would not expect Anthony to be back. So what did I get? Maybe 3 of the 4 guys. Al-Qadim Muhammad, I think, is coming back. I think the other guys that we mentioned, it's going to be a struggle to get these guys back defensively.
A tweet that just went up on the NFL Stats account ranks the teams with the best 2020 draft classes, the top 10. 10th, Panthers, Cowboys, Chiefs, Washington, Chargers, Browns, Vikings, Bengals, Buccaneers. At number 1, so I went in reverse order, 10 on the way up. Number 1, the Indianapolis Colts, the best draft class from 2020.
And go over that draft class and talk about their contributions, please, including Rodrigo.
Michael Pittman Jr., Jonathan Taylor, Julian Blackmon. You could put, Rodrigo was a free agent, right, of course, but then Jordan Glasgow, a guy who's in your mix there, Danny Pinter, who's in the mix there. Your just evaluation of what those rookies were able to do, because in consecutive years, we saw significant contributions from the rookie draft classes playing significant time, critical situations, especially when you think about that late season surge of Jonathan Taylor and what he did. And also, Julian Blackmon, I will still not be able to wrap my mind around the 12 months that he had coming off of the injury, being thrust in to a starting role and making some super clutch plays defensively for this team.
I think about it this way, too. Chris has done such a good job at finding that and putting together this team from the ground up with those draft selections. I thought last year was great from this standpoint. because he went against the grain. I mean, he traded number 13 for DeForest Buckner, and guys, we saw how that worked out. That worked out fantastically. So to me, regarding the quarterback position or anywhere else, I don't mind you taking a bit of a chance now. I think this team is in a situation to where we have seen and we have understood the makeup and how much they have been improved, depth, and the build just from the ground up. I think it's okay for this organization now to take some chances. Now, again, this is a risk I'm throwing out there without my job and or my finances on the line, but I would suggest that they're in a position where, much like last year, feel good. I mean, if you go out and make a trade, feel good about it, because look what DeForest Buckner brought back a year ago in return. You know, take a chance on a free agent that it's maybe more high dollar, but could ultimately be a difference maker. I think that's the challenge right now, because, again, Chris and that staff has done a great job of identifying guys that can come in out of college and help them right away. There's no doubt about that. I think now you kind of move on to take this to the next level, and if you feel like making a trade, make a trade. I mean, value somebody's opinion, value Frank's opinion, value somebody in that room in there that's talking about what is necessary from a free agency model that can get them a playoff win, that can get them a South championship and elevate them as far as the AFC is concerned. So, yeah, to me, there's no dispute on the good job they have done drafting. To me, I think you kind of look outside the box to take this group to the next level and do it via trade or do it free agency. I think everybody around here would be incredibly understanding, because I think that is the path this team needs to take beyond just so much value going into the draft, which they have clearly succeeded in doing.
Since we have had so many conversations surrounding the quarterback position following the retirement of Phillip Rivers, a lot of people have asked about Jacob Eason. What is his track? What is his path? And obviously right now he's not in a position to be a starter. He had 0 reps in his rookie season,
zero
just because
preseason games.
0 preseason games, all of that. John, what is the outlook here? What do you think is the trajectory for Jacob Eason and how he can develop over the next 12 months? What is the opportunity that he can have now that he's been in a room behind the guys who he has, working with Frank and Marcus Brady and sitting a year behind Phillip Rivers, and the value that there is? Also, Jacoby Brissett certainly in that room. What is realistic here moving forward in terms of Jacob Eason's path?
To me, I mean, he's a 4th-round pick. You take a flyer on him. There's not a lot to go on. I mean, a season in Washington and what they have seen. I'm very little of what they've seen because of what the pandemic did to the offseason workout routine and the practices and so on and so forth. I think you just keep him around, find out what you have. The problem you have is you also are expected to win right now. You're not going to win right now. You're going to thrust him into that situation to win right now. But you can get a good look-see, hopefully, once we get clear of all this and things become normal again, a look-see at why teams like the Colts felt that maybe a mid-round flyer on Jacob Eason, because of his skill set, arm strength, arm talent, whatever they want to call it, he's just not ready to go right now. He may be one of these days, and that's fine. But, man, the NFL is certainly a lot in the now. I think the Colts are certainly in the now, and you just don't know enough. There's not enough record to go on Jacob Eason. Therefore, he's just going to have to sit back this year and do a little bit more learning, and maybe he evolves into something with everybody around him. Maybe he doesn't. But, again, a 4th-round pick, taking a flyer like that, to me, there's no harm, no foul at the end of the day if Chris Ballard and company wanted to do that, which is exactly what they wanted to do.
And patience will pay off on this guy. I mean, patience, if he is getting Marcus Brady, Frank Reich in his kitchen, Nick Sirianni.
Bring in Scott Milanovich now as the quarterback's coach.
Like 6'6", huge arm. You know what I mean? It takes a certain kind to play this position in the NFL, and hey, if we got a couple of years that we can groom this kid who's 6'6", cannon arm and stuff like that, so be it.
Laser rocket arm.
I love it.
That football over them mountains.
I'm excited about a couple of guys I want, and I don't want to put any pressure on them. The Jacob Eason year, 2021, what happens with him? And a guy named Desmond Patman.
Yeah.
And a guy named Desmond Patman, when you see him walk around this complex, he's a giant. You know what I mean? He's a giant. He's a big, he's a chiseled giant like that, and it looks like he'd win every one-on-one. So it's a lot of good stuff, John. I want to bring you back in, JMV. JMV from 1070 The Fan, 93.5, 107.5. He's on 3 to 6 in the afternoon. He has the most popular sports talk show in all of Indianapolis. Some are saying the Midwest. So these young guys coming up, these young guys that we, it's kind of boring to talk about, but there are some young guys that we want to get our hands on, John, and one of them, like I said, the Danny Pinters that you talked about earlier. Chris Ballard's in a good position. I'm going to bring this back to free agency somehow, some way. But I'm just saying, Marlon Mack, the stuff like that, we talked about a few guys. Man, I feel good with Ballard. I feel good with Ballard and what he does with options for next year, for options. And I bring up Marlon Mack because, boy, this is a tough game, man. It's a tough game. He started out, he's a feature back last year. You know what I mean? Like, started out like, hey, I got this, coming off a 1,000-yard, dinged up, doesn't see the field of the year. Now he's a free agent. That's the dirt road of the NFL that sometimes you gotta, a guy like Marlon Mack, what does he do for you, John? Because we know it's Jonathan Taylor right now, but please don't overlook this guy if we get a chance to get our hands on him.
No, I said this all along. I thought even after his injury, especially Gorman, the way he stayed around and hung with the team, and I had Jonathan Taylor on with me, and he, I was asking him about, who he's leaned on for advice and who has helped him the most. And obviously, the former running backs coach Tom Rathman was at the top of that list, but so was Marlon Mack. And I don't think that, and it's unfortunate, as you mentioned, you get injured and this kind of derails everything. But because of that and because of the running back position, I don't think there's going to be a robust market for Marlon Mack. And I've said all along, I think Marlon Mack's going to be back here in a running back role capacity because Gorman, we saw just how much they wanted to get into that two-back offense. And, certainly you can, slot in Nyheim Hines in there as well. But I just think they're going to give, and they may be the only one that wants to give Marlon Mack another shot. And I think as a free agent goes, he's going to be low dollar, low cost. And I think he's going to end up back here in 2021 for the Colts.
And last week I had an opportunity to sit down and have a conversation with Scotty Montgomery, the new running backs coach who is replacing Tom Rathman following his retirement. And he's fantastic. He is dynamic. He's a lot of energy. He is going to be so great for that room. And so he is a really intriguing addition to this staff. There's no way you fill the shoes of a Tom Rathman, and Scotty talked about kind of how in awe he was of Tom Rathman and how fortunate he is that Rathman instilled, such strong fundamentals in those guys, all the ball protection stuff, everything he put them through. So Scotty is so excited to take on what's already such a well-built room and develop it even further. So he's kind of a great addition among a lot of other additions. Yes, I know people this is the most turnover this coaching staff has seen.
It's huge.
Since Frank walked in the building. But, John, when you look at the names that he's been able to assemble, the guys he's been able to bring in across the board, how confident are you from the coaching perspective in a lot of these new faces who are coming into the building? You have, Press Taylor, who worked with Coach Reich in Philadelphia. He comes in as a senior offensive analyst. Scott Milanovich, who's the quarterback's coach. He has a long tenure, great rapport with Marcus Brady, brings a lot of CFL flavor into this offense as well. And we know how collaborative of an environment that quarterback room is.
Yeah, well, I just think that it goes to show you they have created coaching options out there that maybe 2-3 years ago we would have never thought. Nick Sirianni, for example, getting that gig in Philly and then pulling, a lot of the staff that he was familiar with here over to Philadelphia with him for his first year. I think that does say a lot. Not only about those that they hire, but those that they grow within. It's kind of a thing. That's what Chris does and brings in draft selection, and they grow from within. And it kind of seems like that's exactly how they also try to approach that coaching staff and just keep it as cohesive and as familiar as humanly possible. And you're going to have defections. You're going to have guys that aren't going to be back. Guys are going to have different gigs someplace else. But you just keep that same style, and you get one group that leaves or one person that leaves, and then somebody comes in that is ready to fill the gap. And to me, that's been kind of a staple of this organization under Chris Ballard is that both organizationally speaking and on that coaching staff, they have had a great deal of cohesion, even with some exits, and certainly and that'll be tested a little bit this year because they lost a lot. But that cohesion is something that is important. I think most people around the NFL that runs an organization will tell you how important that relatability, that connectability with your coaching staff and your organizational pieces, how important that is.
One of the things I joked about last week when I had an opportunity to meet a few of the assistant coaches, Chris Ballard was so excited to draft his first Wisconsin guy in Jonathan Taylor. And then, of course, you have Frank Reich, the Maryland guy. Last year, he brought in Brian Baker, who is his teammate at Maryland. Scott Milanovich, a former quarterback at Maryland also. Scotty Montgomery was the offensive coordinator at Maryland. So I think as much as any dynamic here, we got a lot of Terrapin flavor now that has infiltrated the coaching staff. So I thought that was a funny association, and it goes to show you, too, just how much crossover, how small that whole world is, this whole football world is, especially from the coaching perspective. You mentioned a guy, Dontrell Inman. That was a name that came up when I talked to Milanovich because Dontrell had such a great career in the CFL. I think Frank brought him to San Diego for a period of time. Then, of course, Dontrell came here. So it's really fun to learn a lot about these guys and their long-standing ties to Frank, even though they may not have been in the same places at the same time. It's also interconnected and just goes to show how critical the relationships are, especially when you're talking about what has been such an unconventional, unprecedented type of year. To have those type of guys you can go back to, you can draw from those experiences and know how they're going to benefit and supplement your organization.
Yeah, it's been really important, and that's just I think to me you see that both with a team and how they build a team, and you see it organizationally, you see it on the coaching staff, and that was something I think day one. Gorman, you can remember this as well, and Larry, you can. When Chris Ballard came in, that's one of the things he pointed at is having that. They call it the process comes on. It gets cliched, there's no doubt about it, but it's just been that cohesion that they've wanted to keep. And life is about relationships too. I mean, there may be somebody that we don't know out there that somebody that's the head coach of a team thinks is absolutely great by virtue of knowing them better than anybody else might and feeling comfortable with them around. So that's kind of what not only our life is about, but certainly that life is somebody in the NFL.
John, we appreciate you. Again, folks, due to NFL league rules, we aren't able to discuss any potential transactions until sometime after the new league year officially begins on St. Patrick's Day, March 17th. But I appreciate you tiptoeing around this the way we got to do it, but it is what it is. And I know you're a big part of a Colts backer. I know that you want to see this team win, but what I like about JMV, Larra, is he'll tee off on people.
Shoot you straight, yeah.
Right, he'll tee off on people, and then I'll text him or I'll write him an email and say, you don't know what your cheek from your elbow. I'll do that, but he does that, and he calls people out and he drives it. And again, I'm going to give you some love because a lot of people hammer you on stuff like this, but I love not hammer you, but he doesn't stop working.
No, he's doing the Saturday night.
It's so good, John. John, it's so good. And it's like 6 hours that he's spinning tunes a la Casey Kasem back in the day.
Yeah.
And he does it every stinking Saturday. And again, through the pandemic, when people in their homes not be able to go out, John, breath of fresh air, bro. I got to give you a back slap and a hand clap on that for doing that. And again, it's a great show.
I got to give you props, too, because I played your song you requested before the show.
Yes, I did. Little Fine Young Cannibals.
Young Cannibals. And I rolled that thing out there and said that was from the Gorman.
That's awesome, bro. Well, listen.
That was a solid request.
After March 17th, we can talk freely and openly. I know this, John, and I hope you agree.
We'll have a special St. Patrick's Day edition show is what we'll do.
On the way out, John, without mentioning any transaction, this is a good football team, yes?
Yes, I think it is going to be. I mean, certainly that's the expectation. Certainly, I think a lot of people will be frustrated if it doesn't live up to those expectations. But I think also it's important to where we're talking right now on what date is this? Like the what date is this? This 22nd?
Right.
Yeah, February the 22nd when we're talking right now. That things still are going to evolve. All right, there's still a lot going on. So if something transpires, after somebody hears us here, it's all going to be a part of it. But, yeah, it very well should. And it needs to be Gorman and Larra because if it's not, the AFC is going to eat you alive. That schedule in 2021 is going to eat you alive. So, yeah, it has to be good because you see teams that not only are just good for the moment, but you see teams that can be around in the AFC for a long period of time that are built for that. And the Colts need to be and should be one of them if everything holds the expectation.
He was born in the summer of love, Larra. 69.
Nice.
I was just doing some more research on it. Yeah.
Well, and in a great place. He was born in Southern Indiana. You know, the southern half of the state. As am I. As is Greg Rakestraw, another guy who we talk with a lot. There's a lot of Southern Indiana flavor and goodness around
He's our
here.
favorite Hot Wheel and Stretch Armstrong guy, JMV. Hey, follow him on Twitter at JMV1070. Has a huge following. John, appreciate you talking this. Appreciate the way you danced around today's subject. But again, it was a lot of fun. And listen to him weekdays 3 to 6, 107.5 FM and 1070 The Fan, 93.5 as well here in Indy. And you can get them everywhere on the app. You're the best in the business, bro. Keep up the good work. I appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'll see you.
Thanks, John.
We will see you soon. Now let's bring in, Larra, from left field to make some sense of this whole thing, our guy, Casey Valier. Casey, I know you've been listening. You know what's going on with this show. You know PointsBet Sportsbook is the proud sportsbook partner of your Indianapolis Colts. So, Case, what'd you think? How did we tiptoe around this one today?
I don't know, Jeffrey. I have no idea. I wasn't paying any attention. How did you guys do? No. I thought we handled ourselves exactly how we should.
Okay, good. You want to talk about the stuff that's going around the NFL right now, around the league, because it is a great league and a lot's going on. So I'm dying to find out. Just give me something, Casey, something from your NFL playbook.
Well, I think we're all kind of in a waiting game. We saw the Matthew Stafford stuff that went down, and now it's kind of been you're seeing teams starting to release some players, which is normal. We start to see what the salary cap is going to be. We start hearing all these rumors about the next quarterback to go, and it looks like right now the favorite, which I would have never guessed 3 weeks ago, that the Carolina Panthers might be the favorite to be in place to make a trade for Deshaun Watson, which that just seems kind of odd to me. Looks like right now what the packaging looks like is, maybe a first-rounder this year, a first-rounder next year, along with Christian McCaffrey for Deshaun Watson. But then if I look at it that way, if I'm thinking from Deshaun Watson's standpoint, what am I going to? If you're going to get rid of your best player to get me, then I'm in the same situation I'm in Houston. So this is where it all starts to really make me just kind of my head kind of spin, because I think if you look at the Carolina Panthers, the one player you look at it that makes them at least tough to compete with every Sunday is Christian McCaffrey. So if you get rid of him,
when he's on the field,
right? When he's on the field,
when I spent my number one overall pick in my fantasy
owners,
draft on him.
Fantasy was rough this year with that for sure.
Can't even talk about that.
So I don't know. I mean, right now I saw them. They released a couple guys this weekend that helped give them over that. I think they're at that $35 million cap space, which if you look at Deshaun Watson's salary hit, it's right around that number. So who knows? This may be all smoke screens. It may be them just doing their thing, and fans are like, oh, they're releasing people to get the who knows what's going to happen there. And then, I don't know, did you guys see J.J. Watt get in the Twitter conversation last night?
They did a little bit, yeah.
I didn't catch me up, but that was going to be my question, was on JJ.
So somebody tweeted out at him, hey, JJ, when are you going to make your decision? And his response was, when I get on, I can't remember which site it was, whether it was Grubhub or Uber Eats or, he said, when I get on there, it takes me a long time to figure out the food choice I want. So picking a new team in new city is going to take me some time. Give me a minute, which I think is just fantastic that he's kind of having fun with this whole situation. But there's betting odds on where he's going to end up. My gut says Green Bay because he's a Wisconsin guy, and they're a win-now team. So I think he's going to go to a team.
You don't think you're going to assemble all Watts in Pittsburgh, a three-Watt roster?
That would be another. But then, like I said last week, I don't understand why a guy who leaves a team wouldn't want to play that team twice a year. And if you look at the teams that are going to win now in the AFC South, I don't know, that kind of points to where we're talking about here in Indianapolis. So that's what I'm thinking. If I was a player that left a team, I'd want to get back at that team as many times as I could. So that's just me throwing stuff out there. But
one of my favorite follows on Twitter is Robert Mathis, Colts legend. And when J.J. Watt tweeted last week, free agency is wild, Robert responds, stop BSing, homie. It's a very simple decision.
Right.
Which I absolutely love. It is so funny. He is fantastic. I absolutely love following Robert, and his kind of different takes and all of that. So
we are the show, LO and Casey Valier, that loves to give, right? We love to give gifts and everything.
Very
We're
selfless
the show
on this show
that tries to keep giving. So we have another gift for you. Braden Smith is on Twitter.
Yes. Oh, and it's so
it's
great.
awesome.
Braden Smith is on Twitter.
He's doing tackle talk, which
good.
is so great because he is a tackle, but he loves fishing. So it's like a great little pun.
It's so good.
I talked with Braden's wife, Courtney, about this, and she was trying to give him these tutorials on editing his videos and everything, and he just wanted her to basically do it. She's like, no, you're going to sit down and you're going to teach yourself how to edit these videos, and he's doing it.
Oh,
like,
I love it.
Mad props for Braden capitalizing on this open market. He loves fishing and gardening, and it is so much fun to get this insight.
May I read a couple of the latest from Braden Smith? Again, hashtag Tackle Talk tip of the day. This is one of two. They're great. General rule of thumb for what type of crankbait to throw in the winter: choose a crankbait with a tighter wobble. Flat-sided crankbaits are the go-to during winter, at least for me. And this one I love, too, because he talks so much about planting and everything.
Yeah.
Having an indoor garden is great because you can place it right in your kitchen. So whenever you are cooking, you can just pick whatever herbs you need, and they're right there. Super low maintenance, and I guarantee you'll have a great yield. I mean, he's using words like yield for crops and stuff.
Wonderful.
Man. Casey,
it's
are
so
you
wonderful.
following this guy?
I am.
He's the best.
The best part about it is when you see all this other, whether it's negativity politically or when you start seeing all these rumors about the NFL, and then you scroll down, you see Braden Smith, and it's nothing about any of it. It just brings a smile to your face. So thank you, Braden, for giving us a little bit of a relief.
It's so the companion planting he's talking about, but pairing your tomatoes and your basil and your peas and your cucumbers, your squash and your pole beans. Like my grandparents grew up in McKenzie, Tennessee, and like these are things that like evoke like childhood nostalgia. Like my grandparents talking about companion planting and harvesting and yielding, and it's so great.
God, I love this. The fun part about it is he's so quiet. Casey, you know this.
Yes.
Ella, you know this. He's so quiet. So I would always, when we had access to the locker room before the pandemic, I'd always pry. What are you doing on the weekends when you're not playing? And fishing always comes. So our thing is we talk about fishing, and now fast forwarding, I found out about his gardening tips and stuff. Another one, hashtag gardening tip. If you're planting your garden in early spring, make sure to cover your plants at night to avoid any unexpected frost killing your newly planted garden.
And you know what? Like, this is
so
brilliant.
Good.
You guys, because one of the things that we saw, at least, I'm in the Broad Ripple neighborhood, the Village.
Yes.
It's very eclectic, but a lot of people already kind of had gardens going. Well, with the pandemic and everything, people are looking to be even more so self-sustaining. So I would expect that you'll see people doing more and more of this because of, how tricky groceries were at points last year. Yeah. So people do want to be, more self-reliant. And so he's capitalizing on something that is really significant 2020 into 21.
6'6", about 330, and he says, if you have limited space in your garden, try using a trellis. This is great for using vining plants such as cucumber, sweet peas, mandevilla, moonflower, and more. I mean, it's so good, guys.
I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I am going to attempt, as part of Colts Productions, we got to get out to the Braden Smith farm. We're going to do some fishing. We'll do some fishing. I love it. We will do it. Maybe we can recruit Ryan Kelly. He's another big fisherman.
Yes.
Maybe Rye can come over here and get in there
Leonard
as well.
Also knows how to catch fish.
That's
I got news for everybody.
Oh, and I would love to hear like Darius and Braden just kind of banter back and forth. There's so much potential there, you guys. I love it.
I've got a real question. I got a question here first, Jeffrey. While you were reading those tweets, it really made me start thinking when I'm watching on TV and they have the medicine commercials that come by and the guy that reads. Did you ever do that in your acting career? Because you got a knack for it.
The medicine guy?
Yeah, where you start reading off all the side effects. If you take this too often, you're going to...
No, I got one for you, though, really quick. If you want one, you can tee off on me, and thank you for that, Casey. Find me at Hey Gorman. Find her on Twitter at Larra Overton.
That's me.
That's her. Okay, and Casey Valier, you're like C. Valier at Colts?
C. Valier Colts, yep.
Okay, there it is. Okay, my first commercial, I had hair down to my shoulders.
Is this like the photo you recently posted? Was your hair like
that was fantastic.
Yeah, the throwback photo. Yeah.
So
that was great.
Somehow, some way, I get cast as a veterinarian with that hair.
Oh my goodness.
With that hair.
Okay.
Like long hair. So they blow dry it back. and made it. I look like a.
So it's like slick back, like Jean-Claude Van Damme,
not slick back, but yeah, sort of like that.
No, Steven Seagal. That's what it's like.
Not
Very
that slick, but they did that with my hair. I mean, I looked nothing like the part, and somehow, some way, I got it. And I watched the video afterwards, and I'm like, I can't believe that they actually booked me for this. I was awful at it. I looked nothing like a veterinarian. It's like, hey, champ, hop up on the table now. You know what I mean? It's time for some new improved kibble or whatever it was.
Yeah.
It was so bad, but that was as close as I got to those commercials.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Can we go back into the Gorman archives and find it? Because I feel like our friend Chris Albright usually does a great job of delving into the archives and finding your old clips.
We got some good Hewlett-Packard stuff for you.
Hewlett-Packard.
Yeah, we'll bring up some Hewlett-Packard days. With
I wondered what all those printer cartridges were doing in your office, and now I know. Lifetime supply.
Hey, I have to say this again, and we do it not tongue-in-cheek. We do it because, by gosh, I don't want to get Irsay fined, and Larra and Casey and myself want to hold on to our jobs due to NFL league rules. We are not able to discuss any potential transactions until sometime after the new league year officially begins on St. Patty's Day, March 17th. I say that as a blanket statement because we talked a little bit today about our Colts. We talked about our offense today about our Colts.
I got one quick thing, though. Please. March 17th aligns with St. Patrick's Day.
It does?
That's usually also, and I think the schedule is relatively similar, that's usually also that first week of the NCAA tournament.
Ooh.
So as someone growing up in Indiana, especially like through college and immediately after, like that is one of the premier holidays when you have like a St. Patrick's Day weekend aligning with NCAA tournament tip-off. Where in the ranking of holidays does St. Patrick's Day rank for you, Jeffrey, Gorman, and then Casey?
Oh, gosh.
Do you like a good St. Patrick's Day revelry? Do you like, I mean...
Casey, you better go first because I got to find out how I got to word this response. You better go first.
Well, for me, so the month of March for me is like my Christmas because I'm a huge college basketball fan.
Yeah.
My birthday is is the 26th of March. So I always love right around my birthday. It's always like, Sweet 16 time. I've been to Vegas numerous times right around that time. This year I'm actually going to be in Florida, so I'm going to be taking like a adult
spring break.
So literally the best part about this is I'm going to be able to, and nothing against work related, but I can sit back, watch as many basketball games as I want while I'm sitting on the beach. I can't wait. So this year I'm going to rank St. Patty's Day a little higher in 2021 than
St. Patrick's Day is a Wednesday this year, and then Thursday, March 18th is when the tournament tips off, which is all going to be in central Indiana.
I know. How awesome
which is going to be incredible. All right, Jeffrey, have you had time to ponder?
I have. I really can't talk about it other than I got pie-eyed and kibitz one St. Patty's Day.
But you do look good in green.
And the crap hit the fan. So that's what I think about it. Hey, great. Yeah. You know what? Here's my thing. Everything is dead in February. Everything is
tell me about
dead
it.
in March.
As a February baby, it's like,
you look outside, it's dead. It's brown. You know what I mean? It's dark. It's exhaust on the snow. It's dead. So my only thing on March 17th means spring is right around the corner.
I love that.
And we are bouncing to bright skies, beautiful flowers, sunny skies, wonderful temperatures, and we get out of this thing. So St. Patrick's Day, you bring it on this year and bring it on quick because we want to hug you and send you on your way.
And what I really hope, too, is I hope that things, continue to improve from a societal standpoint, from a health standpoint across central Indiana, because it is always really fun to see places like the Rathskeller, packed just with so many people just out enjoying, the great weather and St. Patrick's Day maybe and all of those different things. So, so looking forward to an exciting month ahead because not only do we have the tournament, we have St. Patrick's Day, and most importantly, for those of us sitting on this podcast, the new league year begins and a whole lot of conversations that we will be having when that does, in fact, happen.
It's
Jeffrey?
coming, and it's coming soon. Again, a big thanks to our friends at PointsBet Sportsbook. We do it every week here on the Colts official podcast. Casey Valier, he keeps us afloat, but Larra Overton really puts us over the top. So thank you both for doing what you do, and thanks for...
Goes with my last name, Overton, over the top. It's just goes with the territory.
Nice.
Yeah, I know.
Guys,
sorry,
again,
dad jokes.
Thanks for dragging my dead you-know-what around here. I enjoyed it. Big thanks to JMV. You can hear them every day, 3 to 6, 1070 The Fan, 93.5, 107.5, and also you can download the app. This final important message. Colts.com, all your latest info, and download the Colts app. Folks, we said it as we said goodbye to John. We got a great football team. We really got a lot of great things to look forward to. Not just positionally, I'm not going to nitpick that right now, but the additions that are here, the additions that are coming, I'm so excited about this. And I'm saying this, folks, get used to it around here. This team, year in and year out, is going to make runs at the Super Bowl. And that's what we're looking at right now. That is the reality and the facts of it. This team and this owner especially will do what it takes to get themselves to a Super Bowl and hoist that trophy. So that's what we got to talk about in the next 3 to 5 to 10 years, Lara.
One quick follow-up on that, Jeffrey, exactly to your point. When I was able to speak with, last week, all of the new assistant coaches coming in the building, when I asked them, what was so appealing? Why do you want, and they were like, the culture here. The culture here is great. The players are great. There's such an incredible dynamic. There is a high expectation. And you heard something along those lines in different verbiage from each and every one of the guys who we spoke with. And so that's great to hear that not only has this become a place that coaches want to come coach, it's where players around the league look to and say, I want to go there because they're doing things right. They're getting the best out of their guys, and they're going to compete for championships.
And nobody wants to play these Colts. Week 1 or week 17, it doesn't matter. I promise you, especially with the additions coming on both sides of the ball, ain't nobody want to play these Colts. The Colts Official Podcast, again, brought to you by our friends at PointsBet Sportsbook. For Larra Overton, Casey Valier, my name is Gorman. Thanks again to JMV. We do it week in and week out. Go Colts!